Hi, this is Paul. I wanted to make a little bit of a video. We'll see how little bit of a video it is about the production of shorts and how I've been using them and why I've been using them and sort of the some thoughts on the status of the, let's say, the internet aspect or the YouTube aspect of the TLC. On Grim Grizz's live stream this morning, I encountered this, which didn't surprise me because I've been getting some other more private notes
for PVK, but I did get one with this because as you mentioned backstage, first thing, as I recall, there's a shorts issue happening in the corner.
Oh yeah, corner complaint department. The shorts are out of control.
Here, hold on. Sorry, that's it. If you switch brandings, I had to go ahead.
Just yeah, I feel like this was not nipped in the bud sooner, and the shorts have been allowed to proliferate.
I did mention the other day that it kills the notification bell because I can't be subscribed to all of your video uploads when 90% of them are stupid ass shorts for the TikTok methadone people. Are you out of touch?
All right. Let's talk about this, and I think it's important to talk about this. Ethan Cawhey and Mark D. Parker, now rebranded as Pseudo Catholic, had a good conversation about clip culture and the internet and sort of the relationship between the TLC and what's going on with this. So I want to maybe shed some light on why I've been doing what I've been doing, give a little bit of background. At the beginning of the year, or at the end of the year, Grizz did a live stream, and the question was out there on a number of tongues. Was Midwestuary peak TLC? Now, I'd want to suggest that TLC and estuary, while connected, are distinct. And some of you might wonder what the TLC is. I think this is sort of the best video to date in a compact way, and so I actually put it in the notes of all of my videos recommending this video, and I even put it on my channel, and I made a couple of shorts from it because I think in many ways Neil sort of nails it.
Is the TLC.
Do you want to know what it is?
I think the term was originally coined by Sevilla King.
We're in a very interesting discussion in this little corner of the internet, and I'm thrilled to be included in it.
And when Sevilla talked about it, it was really first, things were quite a bit smaller. It was Peugeot and Vervaeke and myself downstream from Jordan Peterson. And those were the early days of the TLC.
Sevilla was instrumental in the foundation of this space, especially in conjunction with Karen Wong and Mary Cohen. And unfortunately, I never got to meet Mary before her passing.
Yeah, Mary was a jewel. So in those early days, my channel was smaller. John barely even had a channel. Jonathan Peugeot was already starting to grow. And the conversations were sort of wrapped around some of the usual things. This was before the Bridges of Meaning Discord came out. And the conversation was sort of centered on this. Now, in time, the symbolic world sort of became Jonathan Peugeot's thing. And the Vervaeke Foundation and the Silk Road Initiative and all of those things became John Vervaeke's thing. And the TLC sort of stayed with me, at least the aspect of it that was sort of connected with my channel. And so TLC sort of migrated to be still having elements of the Venn diagram from Vervaeke and Peugeot, but just sort of kept growing. You know, my channel isn't big. My channel hasn't grown like John's channel has or Jonathan's has. So we'll let Neil continue to explain.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Nowadays, when we use the term TLC, we are typically referring to a collection of channels that we have come to know and love as the flotilla. It's a lot. It's a lot. So perhaps what will be most helpful.
And the quantity is a real issue. So that sounds ironic given the fact that the rate of shorts, which I've been putting out, will I continue to put them out? I don't know. That's what I'm going to talk about. The rate of shorts that I'm putting out is sort of ruining the notification bell for the 8% of you or 9% of you that use that faculty. And I'll get into some of that statistics because I've been watching the statistic for a while and watching a whole variety of indicators to try to figure out, okay, what are the signals I need to pay attention to here? Ethan Cahy asked in one of my videos, and what is PVK's project? Well, I've always been sort of vague on that, partly because I am vague on that, but I just sort of have an intuitive sense of, are we doing good things or bad things? And overall, I think we're doing good things. And so then I want to figure out what I can do to help us continue to do good things and help other people continue to do good things.
Is if we go back where it all began.
Something I've wanted to do for a long time, but still does surprise me that
my name is Paul Vanderclay.
there's a
pastor
ready
of
audience for
Christian
it.
Reformed Church in Sacramento, California, and I want to do a little video on Jordan Peterson.
Hi, this is Paul, and this is an experiment. I don't know who greets, who hosts, or anything. I had some thoughts, so I'm going to jump right in.
The other cast of characters I'd like to familiarize you with. That's the Vanderclay guy.
It's not meant for people who are here. It's meant for those who have not yet made it, who may trip over it.
Hello. This is the intro.
Welcome to the Underneath Live Stream. Gail Delvin.
Love you. Jump in here. Hi, everyone. It's Christian here.
For a while, I was done with the whole Christian thing. There's some woo in there.
Okay, yes.
People sort of stay there to chat.
The ordering principle of the universe is the God-man that humbles himself unto death.
Okay, so channels added. And one of the things that there's the tlc.ghost.tel, which Parker has made this really helpful TLC search engine. And if you just click the little RSS, those of you who like code, you can, because one of the things that I had mentioned a few videos ago is that it'd be really helpful to sort of have an RSS feeder. RSS stands for really simple syndication. And it's helpful. I've used RSS. That's sort of the basic of real podcasts, not Apple curated podcasts or Spotify curated podcasts, or now even Google. RSS, really simple syndication, is a really helpful internet protocol that allows communication to go in a very simple way. And it's one of the freest, most open aspects of the internet. And in fact, I just emailed Parker and said, there are 21,000 entries scattered among 72 channels. Could I have the list of the 72 channels? Because I think in the process of this, he has somewhere sort of a text list of all of those channels. And I'm going to probably use one of my sub channels to curate a different YouTube feed to probably continue to play around with these things. And the lines that I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes. Now, whether or not Jacob Federecci continues to consider himself with what relation to the TLC, he, in my opinion, has long been an integral part of it. He's been one of the real pioneers in this space. He was the one, as you can see in Neil's little timeline there, that began using StreamYard and sort of got us into into live streaming. There was quite a bit of chat, video chat, voice chat, and the Bridges of Meaning Discord server for a long time. The number of Discord servers tended to proliferate. Different channels have their own Discord servers. Jacob has his own Discord servers. Grim has the Broken Clock Tower Discord servers. Grail Country has their own Discord servers. There are a number of Discord servers out there. Whether or not I'm a boomer, you can talk to Sam about that. There's all of this now thing trying to slice out the 10-year chunk of the boomers that I'm in. I'm sort of at the tail end of the boomers. They call it Generation Jones. I don't know why. But some of that holds true, because those of us who were born after 1956 had a very different experience with respect to a lot of the formative elements of boomer mythology that I didn't get a chance to. So if you just search on YouTube Generation Jones, there's certainly some elements to that. But Jacob has been, his channel remains relatively small, about 1.5K subs, but he, it very much outpunches his weight class. And he just brings in, it's just Jacob being Jacob. He hosts other things like the Dave Busatil Bible studies are there. Jacob's Corner has a bunch of Israeli and Jewish material, of course, with everything going on in Iran, because Jacob is an Iranian refugee. He has quite a bit of that. And lately he's been streaming with this other channel outside the flotilla. And I remember Chad asking the question once about, are there other flotillas out there? And it's like, well, sort of. Chad found this one with a bunch of Canadians that I watched some of those live streams, so Algo still serves them up. I'm probably going to start serving up some of the chaotic truth. And like today's chaotic truth, these are, if you go to Jacob's channel and you watch this thing, it's just wild. And hey, it's Jacob's channel. He can do what he wants with it. That's sort of part of the culture of the flotilla, is that you have a ship. If Jacob wants to identify his channel as part of the flotilla or not, that's up to him. And it's his channel, so he does what he wants with it. It's a fairly loose confederation of things going on. Let's do a little bit more of this.
And in all of that, I am sure I missed a number of channels, so my apologies to you in the comments below. And the TLC, at its heart, it's a social network, and not in the conventional sense of social network simply being a platform where people interact online. I mean a social network where people are actually connected to each other socially and care about each other. And as with any social network, there's an inner core, there's the people that are really close-knit, and then as you move to the outskirts, it becomes more and more diffuse. And this has also tended to happen over time. What happens is the channels slowly but steadily kind of move apart, but new ones come in to fill the space. I think,
and let me get that. I think that's a hugely, get back on the screen. That's a hugely important observation that Neil made, and we've continued to see this. So in some ways, the three channels that started were my own and Jonathan Peugeot and John Vervaeke, and they moved, and a lot of this has sort of moved in here. And part of the reason it's been able to move in here is because my channel isn't that large, and whereas Jonathan Peugeot, I remember talking to him at Thunder Bay, and I don't mean on stage, I just mean over, in off stage. And I was listening to him, and he was like, Jonathan Peugeot never really wanted to be a YouTuber. It's not really what he wanted to be. And what he was really dreaming about was doing what he's doing now, which is making these fairy tale books and working in that space. And so Jonathan is now sort of they've got the symbolic world, they've got the fairy tale books, and then Jonathan does presentations in different places, and that's a lot of Jonathan's life. And he contacted me the other day, say, hey, it's been a while since we've talked, let's talk again. So I'd really sort of like an update on his life in terms of, he's doing a lot of traveling. That's sort of where it's gone. John Vervaeke, similarly, founded the Vervaeke Foundation, and first it was the religion that's not a religion, then he dropped that, and then it's the Silk Road, and he had a foundation so he could do a bunch of this traveling and do a bunch of those videos, and then they had the lectern. He published Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, and so I think we'll continue to see John Vervaeke's project evolve. And part of the reason that TLC sort of became my thing was that I, as a pastor, was always more interested in the people than the thing. Now, very quickly, as is the case with any church that gets beyond the Dunbar number, there's only so many people that I can relate to. And so hierarchies develop. And so there's, the reason we talk about getting in on the ground floor, there's a reality to that, because some of the early randos that come in, and you saw them in the little timeline thing, I just talked to Job again, and Jeff P., and Luke Thompson, and Sam Tiedemann, and Nate Heil, that there's, and Sherry, and again, forgive me for not mentioning everyone, but that's just a certain group basically on what Neil had pointed to, and Grim Grizz. Certain people sort of took up Karen Wong, although Karen in some ways has always sort of done her own thing. She's watched and kept track, but very quickly you can't watch everything. And so it gets beyond you. And so all of the sensibilities and instincts that I bring to this thing have been developed and cultivated and formed in my experience as a pastor. And so what you learn in a distributed community, which is what every church is, even though Living Stones itself is quite small, many of the people are connected to other people that aren't a part of the church, but sort of touch on the church and maybe have been to the church a little bit. So you start to connect to the people through other people. And so sort of the flotilla image shows there. And attention will vary as things go, depending on interest. Part of what's different about the internet is that there's churn. So it's really interesting when I go back look at videos that are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and I look at the comments, I see some of those people aren't around anymore because the churn on the internet is very fast. And I have churn on the internet. There are things that I watch for a season and then I don't watch them anymore, and then they pop up again. I haven't watched a Benjamin Boyce video for a little while, but there's a couple recently that I've watched again. And I know for many of you, that's also the case because that's what you describe. Sometimes people feel, we're sort of getting our bearings with this parasocial stuff. Sometimes people feel embarrassed by that and they'll come up and say, well, I haven't watched all of your videos. And I'm like, yeah. Or I haven't watched your videos for a while, and they're apologetic about it as if they're hurting my feelings. And let me tell you directly, you're not hurting my feelings, because in a church, everyone who's there every week. The people that are there twice a month. The people that are there 4 or 5 times a year. And so a hierarchy naturally develops. And then there are friendships and other layers to it. So human communities are actually multi-layered. And the TLC is sort of the similar thing. And so you've got people you can reliably find in the Grim Grizz game show, which is kind of what his channel is. A very important and interesting game show, but I think in some ways game show is the closest thing to what Grim Grizz's channel is, and I know he'll not particularly like this description, but who can describe the Griswold Grimm experience? And some of you have never experienced it.
That's gorgeous. Thank you, brother. Who's that brother?
Andrew Jackson G-Head.
Griswold Gaius Grimm, at the start of your journey, mystery begin. Griswold Gaius Grimm, this might make him feel awkward, That's the business we're in. Griswold Gaius Grim. For saves against mind control, we roll dice for the win. Griswold Gaius Grim.
Now, that's some top level branding. And if you don't know what branding means, you've never been to the Griswold Grimm channel and played along in the audience. Where are we? Back to this.
The channels slowly but steadily kind of move apart, but new ones come in to fill the space. I think this is a deeper truth more than just social connections. It's like after the Big Bang, stars drift apart, form into galaxies, galaxies drift apart, form into star clusters. But what is the TLC all about?
Maybe it's like Seinfeld. It's a show about nothing.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's just a lovely veil to conceal the fact that there's nothing going on in here.
Is everything all right in here? Yes, Mommy.
But the reason that veil is so effective is because what defines the corner is anathema to YouTube at large.
Participation, relational knowing. There's so many different levels of this thing. This started with PVK and then the randos, and YouTube is the main platform, although that moves. So people who watch and who comment either after the video's done or live, the realization in the TLC of your own understanding that what this was about was making friends. It was implicit. I don't know that we explicitly knew it. And, there are levels to it.
The primary distinguishing characteristic of the TLC that differentiates it from any other online social body is that we place the person, the relationship, above the idea. And because we place persons above ideas, ironically, that's what allows a broader and wider range of ideas to be conveyed and explored than any other space or non-space that I've ever been part of or have ever seen.
And I think Neil really nails it there, because the Vervaeke Foundation and the Silk Road Initiative, that's a thing. The Symbolic World Summit, that's a thing. There's more focus. There's more editing. There's more discipline. This is wilder. Nobody is sort of holding boundaries on this, but it isn't like there aren't boundaries here. And I think Neil really nails it, that the fundamental lines that hold things together are the relationships. And because it's the relationships, things can be wilder without necessarily breaking it, because it's really hard to know what to break, partly because even when there are certain people in the corner who won't talk to each other, and I can mention names, but I won't, there's still people adjacent to both of them that are keeping in touch with both of them. And again, this is not unlike an in real life human community. But we're going to have to talk about, one of the things that Neil said was we use the internet against the internet, and that is true. But that is a really subtle dance, because on one hand, if you look at what we're using the TLC for, and you look at something like this,
it is time. And a lot of white people pretend to believe you do the same thing that I do. You just walk right past them like they don't even fucking exist.
What are you even talking
hear me
about?
out. Just hear me out. You keep cutting me off. Hold on.
Notice the scroll on the bottom. When I first saw this, something like this, one of these on Jacob's channel, I thought, is Jacob selling skincare products? Is Jacob grifting? And it took me a little while to figure out, oh no, this isn't even Jacob's live stream.
That white woman, she said that for a reason. Because she, in her brain, subconsciously, thinks that I'm lower than her. But why talk to somebody who's lower than you in the first fucking place? Why I wouldn't walk up to somebody strung out on drugs and talk to them. Fuck them. Think about it. I just want you to really sit back and think about it.
And right there,
I don't view it.
And right there, I thought, yeah, TLC people, you can begin already to feel the cultural difference in terms of the TLC. Do we, I'm not going to talk to someone lower than us. First of all right, so you got a hierarchy. Hierarchies are inevitable. How's that going to work? Who's lower? Who's higher? You're not going to talk to a junkie. You're not going to talk to my friend came back yesterday. His father died. So he was in the psych ward for 3 weeks. And so, it's like Gandalf trying to get information out of Golem sometimes when I talk to him, because there's so much repetition and there's all kinds of things going on. And so then I found out that, yeah, I saw him yesterday. He's now camped out in front of my office again, which might impact some things. But why? I mean, it was just really interesting watching Jacob and this guy relate, because this is a very Christian space in some ways. And that's been part of the conversation around this space. Is this space too Christian? Is it not Christian enough? Should it be more careful? And these questions have been with us for a very long time, all the way back to the Discord server. So, it's fun to see Cool Kid Kirk's face, because his face usually isn't there. And again, as Neil said, it's the relationships.
And it's simply because we trust one another. And one characteristic of this space that I think may be unique, truly unique to today, I know there's nothing under the sun, but I think this is pretty unique, is that more so than at any other time in history, the expert class of today might have a weaker grasp of underlying reality, especially social reality, the facts on the ground.
You're out of touch. I'm out of time.
Compared to a strong interpersonal network of diffuse individuals. And in and around this space, we have a nice balance of those who believe that the TLC doesn't exist.
Grab yourself a nice hot cup of Tilo's tea. Tilo's tea. It's not a thing.
And those who believe that TLC is a problem. In effect, it threatens their frame of perception, the way that they see the world. In the way I see it, we need this balance, because TLC exists in its present form only as long as two things are true. Number one, we stay under the mainstream radar. And number two, that we continue to be attacked both from within and without. And that gives a nice opportunity for opponent processing, optimal grip.
Optimal grip.
Optimal grip.
Optimal grip.
Optimal grip.
The hand control.
Literally the optimal grip on them to throw them.
Ultimately, stronger binding. And that's the wonderful part about attacking the TLC.
The list? Yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Graham, I'm not in the room, right?
What room? I want to cast magic missile.
The room where he's casting all these spells from.
He hasn't cast anything yet. I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting magic missile. Why are you casting magic missile? There's nothing to attack here. I'm attacking the darkness.
And at the end of the day, Chad would ask, which day is that? Well, at the end of every day, I think we're really just a band of faith-filled dorks aiming for a sustainable future, because we recognize that there is something good and true and beautiful and sustainable about our tradition, our culture, something that we inherited. And we want to pass that down sustainably to the next generation. And yet we recognize that we're in a time of unprecedented technological uncertainty and sociological change. And we know, I know this deeply, individually, that I do not have all the answers. And I think that's something that really binds us together, that together we feel like we got a fighting shot at making it through together. The promise of modernity was that we could engineer our way out of material suffering and even danger. And as that hope begins to fade, I see coping mechanisms continue to rise. Many turn to a therapist or medication. The ultra-wealthy continue to isolate themselves further and further away from the common man. Others unplug from the internet completely, except to do interviews, of course. And still others turn back to faith. And certainly, that's a good thing. And it's becoming increasingly necessary. Chad had this phrase, stand by the door. It's a poem about how most individuals, when they find the door, they need to go straight through and keep going right into the center. But there are a few of us, for whatever reason, we feel compelled to stand by the door. The way I see TLC is we are watchers. We are those who wait and watch for the others, who begin to seek a better alternative. And don't forget about play. The key to friendship, it turns out, is play. And most grown-ups have forgotten that.
Whoosh, there it is. Whoosh, there it is. Whoosh, there it is.
But I hope you remember Embody. And may God bless you and keep you.
All right. I think that's, to date, that's one of the best brief explanations that anyone has pulled off. And so like I said, I put links to it in the notes of my videos because it's a regular thing that someone will say, what's the TLC? Whenever I do a video that's about the TLC, which is, again, also, as Neil notes, controversial because it's sort of downstream from Fight Club. And the first rule of Fight Club is, I came across this video a couple of months ago and it resonated with me.
It's a huge YouTube issue.
The algorithm is not working.
The YouTube algorithm has changed.
Something's a bit weird on YouTube.
YouTube currently has a huge problem on the platform, and it is a problem that is affecting everyone.
You're not crazy. YouTube have made some big changes, and I have data from over 500 channels to prove it. See, recently, more and more creators have been talking about their views going down for no apparent reason. And this isn't one of those your content sucks, get good situations. My channel was averaging 150k views per video. Now I'm stuck at around 60k a video. Quality is the same, nothing is different. Another comment I saw, I've been doing YouTube for 10 years, almost at 1 million subscribers. And this is the first time in all that time I've noticed a significant sustained drop in views. I used to average 1 to 10k views per video. Now I'm lucky to get 20 views. And they're not alone. Even the biggest creators are suffering. Valio.co shows the top 100 YouTubers combined views went down over 50% in just 1 week. So what's caused all this? Did the algorithm change? Is YouTube gonna pull a Vine, or is it something else entirely? Well, contrary to popular belief, after looking at the data, I don't believe these view drops were caused by YouTube restricted mode, AI slop, ad blocker not counting views, or even seasonal trends. Sure, ad block and seasonality did have some effects, but I think I found the 2 biggest reasons so many creators' views have actually gone down, and feels like nobody's talking about it. So let me explain. Quick context, I work with a lot of creators. Usually they give me access to their channels. And so when I started hearing about creators and even entire niches getting significantly less views, I started exploring the analytics of the 500 plus channels I have access to. And what I found has honestly made me a bit scared for the future of YouTube. So what I did was I exported all the data from these channels I had access to and created this graph, which overwhelmed data lines, I get it. But this graph is actually one of the keys to uncovering where these view drops have been coming from. It shows the combined amount of views being generated by shorts across over 500 channels I have access to. Each colored line represents a different traffic source. So for example, the purple line represents the amount of people clicking on shorts they see in the search results. The pink purple-ish line, I know I'm an artist, that shows the amount of viewers clicking on shorts they see in their homepage. Now let's just follow these lines for a bit. If we come back here to 2024, you can see that both the pink and pinkish purple line are relatively low. And this tells us not as many shorts were being promoted in search or on the YouTube homepage. But then in early 2025, you can see they start to go up. They get particularly high in April and May, before dropping down a tad and stabilizing here. And here's what I want you to look at. Notice how much higher these lines are here, where we are now, compared to where they were back in 2024. It's roughly double, and what this seems to be telling us is YouTube is promoting shorts on viewers' homepages and in search much more than it used to. But what does this have to do with creators' views going down? Well, let's go back in time for a sec. Take a look at this. This is what your typical YouTube homepage looked like back in 2024. So this is back here when the pink and purple lines were flatter. You can see 2 rows of long form videos with 5 videos per row. So a total of 10 long form videos being promoted. And then below that, we have a row of shorts. Now let's fast forward a bit and see what YouTube looks like around the beginning of 2025. You can see we've gone from 2 rows of 5 long form videos to 2 rows of 3 long form videos. And if we fast forward to the present, this is what the typical YouTube homepage looks like. And I've looked at a bunch of different screenshots from different users in Australia, Asia, US, Europe, and they almost always all seem to have 1 row of 2 to 3 long form videos, and then this grossly obese row of shorts taking up the entire rest of the screen. And this isn't just something that's happening on desktop homepages. If you load up YouTube on your mobile, usually the first thing you'll see is a fat block of shorts taking up your entire screen. And also, when you use YouTube search, the amount of shorts that now show up is staggering. But the thing thing is, there's only so much space on viewers' screens. So for YouTube to be able to promote these extra shorts, they had to cut back on the amount of long form videos they're promoting to viewers. Now you would think this makes shorts views go up across the board while long form views go down. But from the data I'm seeing, what actually seems to be happening is the overall amount of views being generated by long form videos across the platform isn't really taking a hit, probably because of reduced decision fatigue. But the diversity of where those views are going is. See, if you're a creator, instead of fighting for 1 out of 10 available slots on the homepage, like back in 2024, you're now fighting for 1 out of 2 to 3 available spots. And so naturally, less videos make the cut, and so views aren't getting distributed to as many middle.
All right, so I'll put the link below to that video. You can finish watching it. It's an excellent video that talks about sort of what's happening in the ecosystem. And you might say, well, so what? So what? And there's about, I don't know exactly how many of you, my guess is somewhere between 200 and 300 of you that it doesn't matter because you're keyed into the TLC. Algo has learned that. You're going to get recommendations. But the churn means that, well, there's a war on, so you're watching a bunch of war videos. There's a thing that happened in politics, so you're watching a bunch of that. You've got to fix something in your house, so you're watching a bunch of those things. Lately, you've been fascinated with an artist or a music thing or a movie or a book or an idea or something, so you're watching a whole bunch of that. And what that means is that the TLC content sort of drifts away, which is fine. Again, the churn is fine. The churn is normal. The churn is natural. The goal here is not to imprison you and in the darkness bind you. We're not going to do that. But one of the things that I had been noticing, and there's always multiple factors to it. My channel, like Jacob Federecci's channel, is my channel, and my homeroom videos tend to be me sort of churning on whatever I'm fascinated with right now, sort of working out for myself. And then there's some Randos conversations, and then there's some other interviews with maybe some authors and things like that. And then there's some Estuary live streams, and then there's always a few other, and then there's the rough draft for Sunday, and then the Sunday sermons. And there's all that stuff just sort of thrown in, which is fine. But I had been noticing with this change in the algorithm, I don't pay as much attention to numbers as I do about comments. And I look at comment quality, which was high right from the start, which is something that really surprised me. And then I also listen to other people in terms of what they've been seeing, because I've always depended, like a pastor, on just paying very careful attention to the other videos that you have watched that you're talking about. Oh, I just saw Nathan Cahy do I just saw in Grim Grizz, blah, 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 blah. Because if your sort of ears are attuned to that and you follow along, you can get a sense of what's happening in the community. Now, my sense is that the community is continuing to get more active. I see more live streams, more videos, more channels. Now, some channels have gone dark, but that's normal in terms of the churn. But I tend to see the relationships thickening, even as, because part of the moving away from the center means that the gravity is getting tighter around the other planetary elements going on. Moons have moons. Moons have moons. And so the whole thing continues to evolve. And you can notice that there was a time when sort of branding was hot, and sometimes one person comes into the corner and they're really hot, and then they sort of become part of the corner and they're on a bunch of channels and they've got their own channel, and then someone else comes in or someone goes away and comes back. And that's all normal flow in terms of human relationships, especially in, as Neil says, a social network on the internet. Now, there are pipelines, and we all know about the Peterson-Peugeot pipeline because that has sort of led to orthodoxy. And I'm sort of a Peterson-Peugeot Vanderklay or Peterson-Peugeot Vervaeke Vanderklay. I'm down the line a ways because my channel is smaller. Yet my channel is important in that because it's a little bit larger than a number of the other channels, it will tend to, let's say for every, oh gosh, how many would it be? 50 or 100 or 200 people that sort of bump into us, one or two sort of lodges and stays. And of that, another percentage of will say start their own ship in the flotilla or try to get in, because in this space, status is directly related to a number of things. Again, the quality of your contributions, but also your diligence. That there are some people who they might not necessarily be bringing a lot of content or new things to the corner, but they're there. They're standing by the door. They're becoming someone just by being there. And again, this is just like churches. People will come and say, I'm trying to get into this church. And my answer is go. Keep going. If you show up in a church like 3 weeks in a row, at least a small church, everyone will pay attention to you. Large church, they won't even see you. But the TLC is a fairly small place. And so people tend to come in and then they're noticed. And then they're noticed for one thing or another thing. And then the chatter will happen and people will find out about them. And then they start showing up on other live streams and that's just sort of the way that this thing works. Now people will ask me sometimes, to what end? And the whole telos conversation that we had a while ago, the TLC isn't a thing because it doesn't have a clear telos. It doesn't have a clear mission. It doesn't have a clear end goal. I would agree with that to a degree. I think Grim Grizz noticed this right away. Grizz and Chad, it's harder to think about two people who are more central to this whole thing than Grizz and Chad. And Chad even takes holidays, destroys his channel, destroys a lot of TLC content. And then I think I've got some more of it that I can put up on Vanderclips. So we'll restore some of that content if we can. But, Parker was talking about that in Parker's conversation with Neil. And, channels sort of, depending on people's lives, they rise or fall, depending on their interests, they go, and that's all fine. But one of the things that I see both in the online conversations and the offline conversations is this virtually not alone is really a big part of it. Because this is fitting a niche that people have that they're not really finding in another way. There might be a difficulty, they might be lonely. They might have a difficulty in their marriage. They might have a difficulty in another relationship. They might have a physical difficulty. They might feel isolated for some reason, and the internet is huge in that. And then what the TLC finds is that unlike someone who says, I'm not going to talk to them, we talk to them. Neil has been doing this deconstruction, reconstruction series, and he's also, today he just dropped a conversation he had with Claire. And years ago, Claire was sort of persona non grata, partly because she kind of came in through Jacob, where a lot of interesting people come in through Jacob. This is just Jacob's gift. But, Jacob sort of, really... Anyway, Jacob has opinions and he acts on them. I'll just say it that way. But Claire has stuck around. And, she's having more and more substantive conversations with people. And yeah, she gets the mute and boot sometimes on Luke Thompson's live streams, but she had an extended conversation with Mark Parker. She had an extended one, and I'd like to at some point, once my schedule frees up a little bit, I want to have an extended conversation with her. I've had the benefit actually of crossing the Atlantic, and Lord willing, that's going to happen again this summer. There's some really cool things in the works for the UK this summer. I'm really excited about that. So hopefully they'll come to pass. And once the plans are set, I'll get to be able to announce some. But I've had the opportunity of meeting some of the folks in the UK and getting to know them. And a few of them have been able to travel over here. I've had a chance to go to Australia. There's something coming in Australia in 2027 too, that people are working on that. So there's a lot going on. I don't think we've hit PTLC. I think that there's going to be ebb and flows. But when I look at what's in the plans for 2027, 2027 is going to be a massive TLC year. And part of the difficulty with all of this is pacing, in that it isn't that big. And so, you know, when we have 3, 4, 5 different events in one year, that's really going to tax it, because a lot of people are going to have to make decisions. And so it's good that events tend to be small and events tend to be geographically dispersed, because not everybody can go to everything. And in a lot of ways, a lot of it's been American and Canadian centric, but some of that I think is going to develop in some other places. And part of the reason that I'm not nervous about new chaotic entrances from the open sea is that what Neil talks about in terms of the strength is exactly right, because it's trust. Because trust is actually, the amount of trust is what determines the speed of a relationship. And that's true all across the board. And trust isn't just binary. I trust you, I don't trust you. It's I trust you with this, I trust you for that. I don't really trust you with this, and I don't trust you with that. And we all sort of know that in our relationship. So when something happens, like, you ought to talk to him, not her. But for this other thing, talk to her, not him. And this is incredibly nuanced and incredibly complex, but we all run these maps in our head. And so what I've seen in the TLC is ongoing continuation of maturity. Now, again, some of you are like, I'm here to talk about the shorts. Okay, so we've got pants and shorts. Let's talk about the shorts. Okay, YouTube loves analytics. You know, a whole bunch of statistics nerd and coders built this thing. And so if you're curious about that, you can look at it. One of the things that I had noticed without looking at this, the thing that people first look at when they go to a channel are subscribers. And that is a legacy indicator, and it actually doesn't tell you much that's valuable. All subscribers means is that at some point in time, someone hit that subscribe button for whatever reason they had. And if you're like me, I've subscribed to over 1,000 channels on YouTube. Usually it's sort of a bookmark, but that's how I use it. I seldom unsubscribe to anything. And so with my 33,000 some odd subscribers, many of them are, I would call them botellas. Now, in the Dominican Republic, there was a government officials, government bureaucrats were called bottles, empty bottles, botellas. And the government building where the botellas worked was called the wakal, which was the thing that you put the empty soda bottles in. And so many of those subscribers are empty. They haven't watched my channel in years. Sometime in the last 8 years, they clicked subscribe. For the most part, my homeroom views have been pretty stable. And if I go out and if I talk to someone with a little bit more status, or I appear on another channel, like when I was on PF Jung's channel, and when Glenn Scrivener made a comment in one of his videos, his channel's growing quite, I mean, he's over 100K now, said something about, you know, Paul Vanderklay, what are you doing with your life if you're not subscribed to his videos? Got a whole bunch, and then a bunch left. And I think there was a certain kind of audience that were expecting a certain kind of Christian video, and my videos are just too chaotic. And so they left. And so what I had been seeing was that for a long time, the channel was fairly stagnant. And so YouTube breaks down people into new viewers, casual viewers and regular viewers. And if you look at, let's say, February 23, new viewers watched for the first time 30, almost 40%. It's not much because those are accidental in some cases. They saw the thumbnail and they clicked on it, but it wasn't for them. And I had noticed that over the last year, the channel was hardly growing at all. Now, part of this has to do with Jordan Peterson because I'm part of the Peterson-Peugeot pipeline. And Peterson was a major feeder for Jonathan Peugeot and John Vervaeke. Peterson had commented a few times, I want to have you on the channel, but it never happened. And so I didn't get the kind of push that John and Jonathan had, which actually is fine. Rafe Kelly was on with Jordan, and if you talk to Rafe about that, it brought some more attention, but it also brought complexity. And I'm not running a business on this. My livelihood isn't connected to growing the channel. Now, having a bigger channel helps the church in some ways and actually helps the TLC in some ways because of churn, you do want a steady feed of new viewers and new audience. And with the change in the algorithm, I remember Burn Power years ago said, don't make shorts. I thought, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't make shorts. So I didn't make shorts. I didn't make shorts at all. And then I watched the algorithm thing. But what Ethan said about click culture, I agree with him. And so it's like, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. And then I thought, this whole channel started because I was watching Jordan Peterson and I was thinking, I want to talk to some people about this. And then I tried talking on CRC Voices, and John Van Donk was very excited, but he was about it. And so I wanted to talk to somebody about it, and nobody in my church was watching YouTube. So I was reading Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death, and I was thinking about media. And I thought, what if I make a video? So I made a video, and I'd been making plenty of Freddie and Paul shows and nobody watched them. I don't understand why. And so I made a second video, and the second video sort of really took off. And then I kept making videos and more people kept contacting me. And I began to, on one hand, I was getting what I wanted. I had more people to talk about Jordan Peterson with and learn about it. And then people were like, you should talk to Jonathan Peugeot. So I found him and I sent an email and we became friends. And then, you should watch John Vervaeke's video. And John contacted me and, we began a relationship. But then the Randos came in, and for a long time, I was just talking to people locally and then people privately. And then I thought, I'm repeating myself a lot. I bet you people would want to watch this, but it won't be many people. But why don't I try it? And so Nathan was the first one I put on. You can find that way back when. And then of course, Job came around. And I didn't know how to do this. So it was like anyone who emailed me, it's like, okay, Thursday. And so I was doing 10 or 15 randos a week, and I was getting exhausted. I didn't realize how intense it was. And then Peterson disappears, and, in 2019, and we pivot. We were, Job and John Van Donk and I were on sort of the Meetup West Coast tour, trying to help people start new meetups, strengthen the meetups that had started. And then COVID hits. And then John and I are continuing to talk about estuary. And then I had this conversation with Rod Hare, and he's like, well, what are you doing? Why don't you just tell us what you're doing? And then it was like, estuary. That's what I'm doing. So Ethan, if you want to know what I'm doing, it's estuary. The TLC is estuary-like, but it's different. And of course, both have developed in their own way over time. And that's good. And while they're still, again, quite connected, they're also quite different, because you can see it in a regular estuary meeting. at least half the people, if not fewer, don't. I mean, it is really fun when people come to an estuary meeting and they're like, who's that guy? And other people smile because they know who I am. And some of the people came because of who I am. So they're both operating in this very messy relationship. But the stagnancy in the channel, I was thinking, what's going to happen to this? And again, I'll keep making videos. I'll keep making my homeroom videos because I just got to talk. And I'll be keep having conversations, and I'll just keep doing this. But then I thought maybe I should play with shorts a little bit. And obviously what you see right here on March 8th was when I started playing with shorts. And again, what you'll notice is that the new viewers are way up. Now, it's really important to know that shorts are kind of garbage for your analytics too, because they just landing on a short triggers it and it means a view. So I went from averaging 3,000 to 5,000 views, and really 2,000 to 4,000, really. Yeah, basically my 48-hour algorithm was somewhere usually between, if I'm sort of having my regular pacing, it's between 3.5 and 6.5 thousand views a day. And the view hours somewhere around 15,000 view hours. But again, the new subscribers had been basically flatlined for a year. And I even had a month when I lost a few subscribers, which hadn't happened at all since I've been on YouTube. So I was looking at that and thinking, I could just leave this alone. But then I thought, why don't I play with shorts? And I was really annoyed because those of you who know me know I hate video editing. So then I had to figure out, okay, how do I do this? How do I pick it? So I'm playing around with a whole bunch of other things. And I'm trying to, I'm working with AI. I'm trying to discover new tools, and at the same time, I'm also on this hunt for better note taking. Some of you have seen that I've been using Obsidian for a while now. I'm not, it's okay. I'm not terribly happy with it. I want something that's going to be, AI is a disappointment, partly because it keeps wanting to do relevance realization for me, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to basically be better search. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. It's frustrating, but it's helped me find some tools, and one of the tools that I found was Vizard. And Vizard is basically a shorts making thing. There's a free trial thing, and then you have to pay for it. And it's not exactly cheap, but I thought, well, the church is still paying me, I'll try it. And because the church, it's very clear, the church does not want to die, and so I'm gonna have to continue to figure out. And it's not that I'm not gonna get paid. We still have some resources, we still have some runway. So, but I have to figure that out. So then I started playing with this, and I'm still playing with this. And the thing with this is, like, Liturgies of the Wild. I threw my conversation with Martin in it, and it rank orders the clips, and you can publish directly from it to different venues, and you can edit the clips. And I was using Descript. Some of you might remember that I used Descript a little bit after I talked to the Collinses because they really recommended it. But I didn't finally like Descript, and it was more expensive than I wanted. So I tried using Descript for shorts, and I just used a whole bunch of things. This worked out really well. And as you can see, I can make a lot of shorts. Now, I don't just release them. I watch them, I edit them, but it's much more streamlined in terms of making shorts. So once I started making shorts, it was very clear that the number, where were we? The number was going up. Okay, this is 365 days. And you can see, you know, that there have been, this is sort of the way things naturally go. Something happens, you get a bump, and then, see, we were pretty much middle of September. That's about where the algorithm changed, to the best that I can figure. And that was what that video was talking about. And so basically, YouTube wasn't giving me any discovery. And if that happens, well, part of it is estuary, TLC, it needs fresh input. And even if the thing that convinced me most to keep making shorts was comments, because I began seeing comments from people saying, I like the shorts, I don't have time for your videos. Normal problem. Comments of, I haven't watched your videos for a while, but then, and I recognize the name. And then completely new accounts that I've never seen before. I've always had a pretty good sense of if I've seen something before. And so if someone's left comments repeatedly, I'll recognize the account name. But new accounts, I'll usually recognize that's a new comment. And the kind of comment usually betrays the fact that they're a new comment. Now, I'm already seeing that this already might be something of diminishing returns. In other words, I might be getting this spike now, and it might go away. So I don't know that I'm going to keep doing it. But as many have noted, this is a problem for those of you who have the notification bell on, which is a really wonderful thing. And I appreciate that you do it because you catch most of my videos. But this kind of ruins it. And I don't quite know what to do with that. I researched it a little bit, and I found that there's a way that I could possibly release the shorts without the notification bell going on, but that also then impacts the discoverability of it, which makes it not giving me what I want. So I really haven't resolved that issue. I don't know, quite frankly, if the notification bell actually works. Because just like the subscriber thing, I think, you know, Nate made the comment that Nate wasn't getting any of Luke's videos, even though he had liked and subscribed and hit the notification bell. He wasn't getting notifications. Brett had just mentioned that. In other words, I don't think these controls really are the kind of on-off thing that we imagine that to be. And I think that's completely the way Google works. They're signals for Google, but Google is going to watch your behavior, and Algo is going to prompt you based on behavior more than the controls that you tell it to. In other words, it doesn't matter how you set up your controls. It's going to do thinking for you, or at least try to. And this is completely consistent with where all social media has gone. Early on, and the channel wasn't monetized even after I could for quite a long time. And then YouTube changed their terms of agreement. And basically what it said was, they can monetize anything. They can put as many ads on whatever you want. And I remember Rebel Wisdom talking about the fact that he was releasing his videos without mid-roll ads, and Google kept putting them in. And he kept taking them out, and Google kept putting it in. And according to the terms of service, Google has every right to do that. And then I noted that on my Vanderclips channel, which is not monetized at all, Sam is playing a video, the Tim Keller video from my Vanderclips channel, and Google is putting ads on it. And so the only reason to not monetize is if you want to give more money to Google, because it's going to get money from ads on your content. And the only thing you get when you monetize is a little bit more coming to you. Now, I think I'm getting away with it with no wait, no ads to a degree, because things in no wait, no ads or the membership section are not monetized. But again, according to the terms of service, Google can put ads on anything it wants, however many times it wants, for whatever reason it wants. It's their platform. They're going to do what they want with it. And that's the way it is on YouTube. And it may very well continue to get worse. So I gave in, I started making shorts, and I'm playing around with them. And then I noticed something which surprised me. So this is the way the back end, now most of the time it was spitting out like 32-second shorts. And so then I click on it. A book now is almost a luxury item, which is probably what Amazon is responding to. That if someone is going to honor the contents of this book with embodiment, they are going to want a hardcover, some embossing, a good spine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So in other words, it's becoming like vinyl.
Yes.
You know, it's the new vinyl. Books are the new vinyl. It's true, actually.
So what I've discovered in the process of making shorts is that, and I knew this before, but it really drove it home to me. I don't remember a lot of the conversations that I have. And Martin Shaw's video, I mean, Martin Shaw is just so eloquent. It's just, he opens his mouth and gold comes out. And so there's just tons of clips in my conversation with Martin. But I also discovered that in going through the shorts, I'm discovering gold. And back in the day, so I used to have a Zune. And the Zune, Microsoft quite famously, the iPod was very popular, and the families of Microsoft employees wanted iPods, and their kids wanted iPods, and everybody was listening to iTunes and all of that. And Microsoft wanted to compete with it with Zune, and like many Microsoft's attempts to compete with Apple, Microsoft failed. But Microsoft basically tried to make a rule that said, if you work for Microsoft, you got to use Zune, not iTunes. People are grumbling about that, but it's called dog fooding. You start having to eat what you produce. And there's a real value to that in terms of, oh, here comes the blower. There's a real value to that because it keeps you closer to the knitting. And so as I started making shorts, I began to realize, and now I'm continuing to work through my process of making shorts. I'm going to blow through my credits at some point, but I'm so fickle with these things. How long will I keep making shorts? A week from now, a month from now, 2 months from now, I might abandon shorts altogether. I might. And that's why I say I'm a bad YouTuber. I'm a very selfish YouTuber. You know, just like Jacob, if he wants to, you know, do what he wants with his channel, me too. Because I'm finding I'm learning. I started, okay, Ethan Cahy, what's PVK's project? I'm a very selfish YouTuber, Ethan. I started making videos to learn. And that learning project involved talking into the camera because it puts me in a flow state and insights come out and the video records my insights, and I can evaluate the insights on the basis of how well those insights are picked up by other people out in the community. And once I see the insights being reflected back to me, I think, oh, that's important. See, now I'm thinking this would be a good short. And sometimes I miss the insights. And so dog fooding helps me go back and see the insights over and reinforce the insights. And then listening to all of you, because we're all sort of working on this together. So I'm learning from you and you're learning from me and we're learning from each other. And again, part of the reason why, So one of the things that we started at the beginning of the year was I started a Signal group with myself and Rod Hare, because he was wanting to talk about TLC, and Luke Thompson and Sam Tiedemann. And of course, I know that caused up a little dust up, but I wanted to talk about these issues with someone, and I wanted to do it in an environment which was different than the channel, which was a little bit less noisy, and that proved helpful. But the whole point of this has always been learning for me and to create a learning community. And even though Sam and Luke are like, you should go out and talk to bigger names more often, we've got a pretty good track record, actually, of catching people on the rise. And that's really a good thing to have. Now, Jonathan Peugeot and John Vervaeke are not terribly available to us anymore because hierarchies bind and blind. It's the way that whole status hierarchy things go. And it's true of me. I don't have the kind of time I had in 2018 or even during COVID to do a bunch of things. I just don't have it anymore. But the whole point of the distribution is that everyone will have someone they value and trust to talk to, and the relationships within these other flotilla nodes will continue to deepen. And that's what's been so awesome about seeing, Grizz now has a wingman with Ezra. And I think it's awesome. I love the chemistry between them. And it makes Grizz's channel stronger. And he's not only virtually not alone, now he's less alone now virtually. I don't know. I haven't figured that out. Something will emerge. And so part of what happens here is that this is very emergent, in that as we go, we discover. So, the first person that said to me in the comments, you're ruining my notification button. I thought, ooh, so that's when I researched it a little more. And then Phlebas noted it and Grizz noted it. So I'm probably going to keep making shorts. Will I keep releasing them at the rate I have? I don't know. The dog fooding has been helping me. So I don't know. I've really been enjoying and finding Kevin Flatt really early on. I think Kevin Flatt's book's important. I think there's a lot that's profound in his book. To whatever degree I had to popularize Dominion, I'm glad I did. I sent a note to Tom Holland and he hasn't gotten back. Hierarchies bind and blind. Tom Holland used to be able to get back, but once the rest is history got massive, well, Tom Holland's just busy with stuff. I get it. I'm not insulted. I'm not offended. Nothing like that. That's sort of the nature of these status rockets. And it's part of the reason I prefer the TLC. Because, if, who knows, maybe Luke Thompson takes a status rocket ride and Luke Thompson becomes the next, another big YouTube influencer, and all of our channels will be helped a little bit, but we won't have access to Luke like we have now. And I would be happy for him if, in fact, that status rocket blessed his family. I've got real questions about status rockets and the degree of blessing that they are. But I wouldn't begrudge him a status rocket ride. Same with Sam, same with Grizz, same with Neil, same with anyone who's, Kale, anyone who wants, is trying to do a little bit of hustle here and, climb up the hierarchy a bit. I don't have any problem with that. A lot depends on what your channel is for to you. And while there are multiple projects involved, one of the projects for me on this channel has always been learning. Another has been friendship. Another has been pastoral ministry, caring for people. Another has been evangelism to a degree and church growth. Living Stones would not be alive without the generous support from some of you giving to livingstonecrc.com/give. It's down there in the notes. gifts to this church have kept me on YouTube and kept this church alive and kept Estuary going. It's just the way it is. I didn't set out that way. So again, I'm probably going to keep playing with shorts until I run out of credits, or I get bored with it, or it just becomes slop. My real frustration with shorts is that YouTube doesn't actually allow me to use shorts the way I want to use it. See, so there is this button up here.
Stamp to this beat. Genius.
But this is what I hate about shorts. I hate the TikTok quality of shorts, where it's just scroll, 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 and it's picking my videos. Now, to a degree, with the algorithm, it's still picking my videos, but you know, if I want to, has Neil made any shorts? Let's go to Neil's channel, shorts. He's made one. And I watched this. When Neil made this short, it came up on the side and I watched it. Justin Brierly, has he made shorts? He's made some shorts. I haven't watched them. What I'd really like, did he do? See, because of the destruction of the front page. Now, Grim Grizz is right in that you can click this little button and show fewer shorts for a while, and then they come back. And like, here's...
I was thinking of this, and how I think of myself as far as that whole situation goes is, you've seen The Never Ending Story?
I have, yeah.
You know, the old guy who's studying the gate the whole time? That's
because the TLC puts out so much content, it's hard to keep up. And I look at something like this and I see the value. Now, the thumbnails aren't terribly helpful. And these are sort of truncated, but I can sort of scroll through here and say, oh, look, he's talked to this person. And you interact with shorts differently. So Sam has been trying shorts. And so Sam, you know, played with Vizard a little bit. I told him about it. Might not have been worthwhile enough for him to pay some things, but I didn't like this layout of shorts because, again, visually, this is much more interesting than this. And so I think there's a place in the TLC for shorts. And I'd really love to see more corner channels do more with, let's see what if Paul Rene is doing anything with shorts yet. Oh, that's mostly like his weight training stuff. Bob the Baptist is someone, no shorts for him. Where's Luke? See, Luke has been gone. And already, Luke was like way up at the top of my list. And then he's gone. And whenever you want to search for Luke, you have to go to Luke Thompson Whitestone name, because there's this other Luke Thompson out there and all of the other Luke Thompson shorts that get in the way. And I don't want to see the other Luke Thompson, but I want to go to my friend Luke. And so Luke's done some shorts, but Luke's used shorts for just kind of not clips, but fresh shorts. And of course, I made a couple shorts with my wife because she recommended that I do this. And Luke's playing with them. So I think the TLC should maybe look at this as well. I would love to see. So one of the things that I started playing with. So this is my Vander clips. And of course, each sub channel has their own feed. And I learned this because the church channel has all sorts of motorcycle racing videos. And I never watch motorcycle racing videos and classic rock bands. And it's because Rick, when he's live streaming the church before and after the service, will often watch motorcycle racing videos. So the church channel has its own algorithmic feed from YouTube. So I didn't have like any TLC channels, and I decided, let's see, has Mark Parker, see, he's sort of looked at it a little bit. And so I thought, and you know, this one is old. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but sometimes I would be on the wrong channel and subscribe to something and then realize I subscribed on the wrong channel. So, ooh, some shorts from these. And again, part of me would like to look at these shorts and check them out.
He's acting in a way that boldly puts him at risk of being viewed as as insane or heretical in what he does.
No, I think this is very big because Mr. Illick wants to emphasize, and Benito Roy does as well, that the man on the side of the road is disgusting. He is, he's shocking. There's a repulsion there. And also the repulsion of helping him. Because, of course, and Vanderclave has emphasized this, there's also the religion that says, well, if he's on the side of the road, he must have done something bad to have that happen to him, right? So if you go to help him, you're throwing into question that entire way by which we understand good and evil.
So, again, I think there's a place.
He's acting in a way that boldly.
I'm frustrated with the interface, and I don't want to go to TikTok because TikTok is everything that I don't like. But I see promise in this for our content-heavy, loquacious TLC to have a space for shorts, because there are times when I don't have time to play the game show that is the Grim Grizz channel, but Grizz is a genius, and I want to know what's going through his head, because this is a learning process for me, and we're thinking together. And so to have Grim Grizz make a short about some element, some insight, something that happened, is really helpful for me. So instead of sort of scrolling through the branding, I mean, there are times when I've just got the branding on, I'm liking the branding, I'm playing along, it's great. But there are times when Grizz did a live stream and I want to know the 2, 3, 4 main points out of it. Now, AI is going to be rushing into that space right now and trying to do that, and I don't trust it. Even though Vizard sort of selects elements, but it selects so many, I can still go through, and I can also remember and make other shorts based on the text and the transcript of the video, and that's a super helpful thing. So I really like that Vizard tool. So I'm going to play 2 shorts that I'd completely forgotten, and then when, whether it just the review of a 30-second review and it caught it, it was like, yes, this is really important.
Because when you hear him read it, if anybody's listening and you're writing a book, for God's sake, read it out loud all the time. And if anything in your sentence feels self-conscious, or there's 2 more adjectives than you need in every line, keep compressing, read some Hemingway, keep compressing, get it shorter, get it tighter, and gradually your own shape begins to sort of reveal its hand. But it does take a lot of work. There isn't a quick route to it, because when you hear him read it, if anybody's listening and you're writing a book, for God's sake, read it.
All right. So the Vizard grabbed some of it, and then I looked over the text and I lengthened it and I edited it and got what I wanted. But that issue, and I thought this is a lot like the dog fooding that I'm doing. And then this moment was just amazing. I had completely forgotten about it.
Like to just take a moment to say to anybody out there who's living creatively, just to restate what they all already know. The real gift is in the making of the thing, the thinking of the thing. When you go for a walk and there's an idea that comes, anything that would be happening to me at the moment is wonderful. It's a great harvest, but it's not that. That's the stuff. That's the stuff. And so as long as you feel that going on in your life, you're picking a thread to Jerusalem's wall. You're in good shape. Just keep following that thread. Don't tug the thread too hard, you know, and don't keep looking in other people's fields as well. You know, just try not to do that. I would like.
Okay. And again, that too. And I thought that to me is really also the TLC, because the way the hierarchies work is that we have some really bright people with a lot of great insight, and they're well-spoken and they're talented and they're leaders, and so they're important. And so we find them on YouTube and we listen to them, and that's great. I was at a church meeting a couple days ago, and we were talking if we could rearrange how our denomination worked. One of my friends, old wise friend, he and I are the old guys now in the Sacramento cluster. He said, I'd require denominational employees to work at least quarter time in a local church. He said it, I thought, yeah, that's exactly right. Why? You know, that'd be a distraction. You know, they should focus on the denominational work, yada, yada, yada. I would notice in seminary that even just 2, 3, 4 years out of local work, the kind of disciplined professional local work that you do, the stories were already getting stale. When Neil talks about the value of the TLC, one of the things that he notes is the TLC is a good place for us to keep our ear to the ground, because by the time it gets into someone in the nosebleed section, it's probably 6 months old on the ground. Being able to listen to each other and have a giant sifting learning machine is of incalculable value. You might say, well, we're on the internet. Anybody can listen to us. Yes, but they won't. You know,
these persons above ideas, ironically, that's what allows a broader and wider range of ideas to be conveyed and explored than any other space or non-space that I've ever been part of or have ever seen. And it's simply because we trust one another. And one characteristic of this space that I think may be unique, truly unique to today, I know there's nothing under the sun, but I think this is pretty unique, is that more so than at any other time in history, the expert class of today might have a weaker grasp of underlying reality, especially social reality. The fact
I think he's right. Part of the thing that you'll notice in this TLC, there are some really smart people, and many of them are young. And what that means is they're going to move up a hierarchy at some point, but we're catching them young, and their ear is to the ground. And so this, for me, is such a potent learning space.
It's on the ground.
You're out of touch. I'm out of time.
Compared to a strong interpersonal network of diffuse individuals. And in and around this space, we have a nice balance of those who believe that the TLC doesn't exist.
Grab yourself a nice hot cup of Tito's tea. Not Tito's tea. It's not a thing.
And those who believe that TLC is a problem. In effect, it threatens their frame of perception, the way that they see the world. In the way I see it, we need this balance because TLC exists in its present form only as long as two things are true. Number one, we stay under the mainstream radar. And number two, that we continue to be attacked both from within and without. And that gives a nice opportunity for opponent processing, optimal grip.
Optimal grip.
Optimal grip.
Optimal grip.
Optimal grip.
The hand control.
Literally the optimal grip on them to throw them.
Ultimately, stronger binding. And that's the wonderful part about attacking the TLC.
The list? Yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Grim, I'm not in the room, right?
What room? I want to cast magic missile.
The room where he's casting all these spells from.
He hasn't cast anything yet. I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting Magic Missile. Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here. I'm attacking the darkness.
And at the end of the day, Chad would ask, which day is that? Well, at the end of every day, I think we're really just a band of faith-filled dorks aiming for a sustainable future, because we recognize that there is something good and true and beautiful and sustainable about our tradition, our culture, something that we inherited. And we want to pass that down sustainably to the next generation. And yet we recognize that we're in a time of unprecedented technological uncertainty and sociological change. And we know, I know this deeply, individually, that I do not have all the answers. And I think that's something that really binds us together, that together we feel like we got a fighting.
And we stand at the door. So I'm going to keep playing with shorts. And if you have to undo the notification bell, that's fine. I just have a lot of faith with this. You might check in again a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now. I might not be making shorts anymore. I might have decided that this wasn't worth it. If you go back to the very early days of the channel, I said this a lot about the whole channel. I said, I might just stop this because I don't know where this is going. This is an experiment. Well, the whole thing's always been an experiment. And it's been a really happy experiment because I have learned so much from all of you. And I am tremendously indebted to all of you. And it's even, we're watching the same things together sometimes. And, you know, this morning I was doing something and I put on, you know, Mark D. Parker and Ethan Cawhey, and I'm listening to that. And then I put on Neil and Claire, and I was listening to them. And, you know, on going through, I'm listening to it. And so I was even thinking of making a compilation of shorts just to shorten something. It might just be like too sugary for something because shorts have their own, you know, punch. So I don't know, but I hope more channels play with shorts, and I hope we can figure out a way to use YouTube to better handle the amount of content we have going through, even though the community itself is a filter. Because for me, once 2 or 3 people mention a thing from a video I haven't watched, I go looking for it. And then I try to find the place. And again, if there's something in a video that we thought was punchy or we thought was helpful or insightful, it'll come up. And also, again, Algo isn't worthless. There are sometimes when Algo just won't stop presenting a video to me, and I think there must be a whole bunch of people who watch me that watch this. And so there might be something in it, and I discover there is. Sometimes I discover there isn't. So, you know, we're surfing on the waves of this machine, and so that's my video about shorts. I'm sure you'll have comments, so leave one.